Hey everyone, how's it going? Today we're going to be going over and showing you how to install the eTrailer trailer hitch receiver here on our 2022 Subaru Outback. So this is what our trailer hitch is going to look like installed on our vehicle here. Now first things first, this is a hidden design trailer hitch, meaning the cross tube is going to be tucked up behind the bumper here. So the only thing we are going to be able to see is the actual receiver tube. Now our entire hitch is coated with this nice matte black powder coated finish. This does a couple different things. Number one, it's going to help protect the hitch from rust and corrosion, being that it is on the underside of the vehicle, subjected to the elements. And number two, the matte finish really blends in well with the factory underbody paneling on the vehicle, giving it a very nice overall look. So adding a trailer hitch to your Subaru Outback, it's going to be an excellent option because it's going to make your vehicle that much more versatile. Now obviously we can use the trailer hitch for towing, but if we wanted to hit the trails or just simply free up some space inside the vehicle for us and the family on those long road trips, we could easily attach either a hitch-mounted bike rack or hitch-mounted cargo carrier. So in regards to towing, our trailer hitch here is going to provide us with a 3,500 pound gross trailer weight rating. That's the amount we can pull outward on our trailer. It also has a 350 ton rating. That's going to be the downward force on the receiver tube. Now, keep in mind these capacities are only for the hitch, which is tested separately of the vehicle. Therefore, it is a good idea to check in your owner's manual, verify the vehicle's towing capacity, and abide by the lower of the two rated components, whether that's the hitch or the vehicle. So the receiver tube size here is going to be an industry standard. It's going to be 2" by 2", and this is going to allow us for a much greater variety of those hitch mounted accessories to choose from. Now some of these Subaru Outbacks come equipped with a factory 1¼ which really limits your possibilities in regard to those accessories because there's a ton more for that 2" by 2" opening. And then if we look on the side of the receiver tube, you're going to see we have our hitch pin hole there. That's going to be a 5/8" diameter, so that's going to work great with a 5/8" diameter hitch pin and clip. Now keep in mind, your hitch pin and clip don't actually come with a trailer hitch. And the reason for that is a lot of the times your aftermarket accessories such as bike racks and cargo carriers are actually going to come with their own. So you really shouldn't need to worry about picking this up separately, but if you do need one, we have plenty of options here at eTrailer. And then welded to the bottom of the receiver tube, we have our safety chain loops. Those are going to work great with both the smaller S-type, which are probably more common for this vehicle, as well as the larger clevis style if you have them. So a couple measurements for you guys here. They're going to help you when you're selecting your hitch mounted accessories. The first one is the distance from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening. And the reason we're giving you this is so you can select the correct rise and drop to tow your trailer level. So this is going to be when you're looking at ball mounts. And on this particular vehicle here, you're looking at about 15¾ inches. And then we have the distance from the center of the hitch pin hole to the outside edge of the bumper. So that's going to let you know that if you have any folding accessories, whether or not they're going to hit the back bumper here. And I don't think you're going to have any issues for this vehicle at all because you're only looking at about 2 inches here with that hitch pin recessed behind the bumper. So in regards to installation, you do have to take the bumper off. That's the first thing you're going to see us do. And I know you guys are probably a little on edge about doing that, but I would honestly say the Subaru Outback is probably one of the easiest vehicles to get the bumper off of. It's really not that many fasteners. It's very simple. So definitely don't let that deter you from this installation. Everything else is pretty straightforward. There's only a small modification we need to make to the vehicle, which is just trimming an underbody panel, but there's no drilling or welding or anything major like that. Everything is very straightforward. This is something definitely that a weekend warrior can do at home by themselves in their driveway with just an hour or two of time. You don't need to lift the vehicle in the air or anything like that. As we said, it's all very straightforward, and we're actually going to walk you through this entire process step by step now. So to start your installation today, we will have to remove our bumper cover to get our trailer hitch into position, but I know that may sound like a daunting task. It's actually not that bad at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to start underneath the vehicle. We have a couple push pin fasteners to remove. There's going to be 7 of them in total. So you're going to have 2 on the outside edges of the bumper on either side there. And then we're going to have 3 in the middle, here, here, and here. Keep in mind the 2 outside ones in the center do not get removed. But we'll just go ahead and start by removing each of these. So we're just going to take a flathead screwdriver. You're going to be prying the center section of that fastener out, and then you're just going to pry out the outer section as well. So we'll go ahead and get those all out now. So now we've got all those push pin fasteners out. You can see here I'm just pulling. Our bumper's pretty loose The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go inside to each wheel well. We have a couple more of those push pin fasteners to remove there as well. Now you can see our little push pin fasteners here on the outside edge. These bottom two ones we're actually going to leave in the bumper. We do, however, need to remove that top one there. So in order to remove this, it's a little bit different. You're just going to be prying that center section in like that, and then we should be able to pull the rest of it out, kind of similar to how we've done with the other ones. Just like that. So we have one of these on either side there. Now keep in mind, if you have a model with mud flaps, ours does not have those. You will need to remove those as well, but there is steps for that in your instructions. So now we're ready to remove the bumper cover. Now what we're going to do before we tear it off is we're going to take some painter's tape, and I'm just going to put a piece of tape on this top quarter panel here just to serve as a little bit of protection, not so much as when we're taking it off, but when we're putting it back on. So if you guys want to do that, great. If you don't have painter's tape, that's fine. This isn't a required step. You just need to take a little bit more caution when you're putting the bumper back on the vehicle. And again, all of this is just so we avoid scratching the painted surface. So now that we've got our tape on there, we're going to begin removing the bumper cover. So we'll start on either side. I'm just going to reach in behind the wheel well here, and I'm going to try to pull as close to the actual panel as I can, but we're just going to pull it straight outward to release those clips. I'm going to work my way from one side to the other side. Now, if you have an extra set of hands, that's certainly going to help you be a little bit more safe and secure, but you can still do it by yourself. So once you get right here by your taillight pocket, there is a portion of this bumper cover here that's going to be blocked by the hatch, so you will have to open your hatch, but there isn't any additional fasteners. So depending on your options, you may or may not have an electrical connector that you need to unplug. As you can see here, we don't have any, so we can just pull it straight off. Usually the electrical connectors are pretty easy to remove. There's a locking tab you have to disengage, and then it's just a button you pull straight out, so pretty simple. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be removing our bumper beam. So our bumper beam is going to be held on with 3 fasteners on either side. We have 2 bolts and 1 nut. You're going to need a 14mm socket. You're also going to need a deep well 14mm socket and a pretty long extension. So once we get those tools, we'll just begin removing the hardware. So that's what one of our bolts looks like. We have one here on the side. We have another one of those same ones on the bottom here. And then on the inside here, which you'll access through the bumper beam, we have one of our nuts. And now we'll just repeat that same process over on the other side. So once we get all of our fasteners off, we can just remove our bumper beam from the vehicle. So we're just about ready to place our hitch into position on the vehicle. But if we look inside these little cutouts here, just directly behind where that bumper beam is, there's going to be a couple grommets and push pin fasteners in some of the holes that we need to use. So we're just going to take a flathead screwdriver and you're just going to pry those out. Now you can either do this from inside the bumper beam or you can do it from underneath. So now we can take our trailer hitch here and go ahead and set it into position on the vehicle. You can see the little pieces of angle there are going to line up with our bumper cutout. And then we'll just go ahead and temporarily secure it to the vehicle using our factory nuts. So we are going to have to remove these and reinstall our bumper beam, but we're just going to use this to hold it into place for now. So now that we have our hitch just roughly held in position, we're going to be using our 7/16 inch carriage bolts that come in your kit. You have one for either side along with our flange nuts. So how this is going to work is our carriage bolt is going to go through this opening here and secure into the rearwardmost hole in our hitch. So there's going to be 2 square holes in that little section that gets inserted into the bumper beam here. This carriage bolt is just going to drop right down in the one closest to the front of the vehicle. Now you can probably sort of fish it in there with hand, or if you have a magnet you can sort of use to fish it through that hole there. But I'm going to tell you guys something that's going to make this a lot easier. if you pick up a bolt leader or a fish wire, whatever you want to call this, we sell these here at eTrailer. They're pretty cost effective. If you pick up just one of these, it's going to make this step a lot easier, but again, it's not required. Now, if you do opt for the fish wire, you're going to take the coiled end and you're going to feel underneath through the hole that we're going to be using. So it is pretty easy there. I'm just using my hand to sort of feel for this. There's going to be a large hole. This is going to be one of the ones that we remove that grommet from. It's actually the rubber grommet. So we're just going to take our fish wire there and we're going to feed it through that hole. And then we're going to feed the coiled end out through the opening here in the hitch, just like so. So now we'll just go ahead and take our carriage bolt. We're going to thread it on to the fish wire, and then I'm going to grab the other end of the fish wire. I'm just going to pull it through the hole in our hitch until it lines up with the hole there in the bottom of our bumper. Now this one isn't dropping right into place, which is fine, so we may need to move the hitch a little bit or just jiggle the bolt, and you can see that did the trick. So now I'm just going to unthread our fish wire there, and I'm going to thread on our flange nut. Now you want to be careful when you're threading on that flange nut because you don't want to push the carriage bolt back into the frame, so I'm just using one finger there to put pressure on the side of the carriage bolt, and then I'm going to thread on our flange nut. But once we have this side done, I'm just going to do that exact same thing over on the other side. So now we're ready to reinstall our bumper beam over the hitch and onto the vehicle, but before we do that, we need to remove those factory nuts that we installed earlier, which was just used to hold the hitch into position. But now we'll take our bumper beam here and you're just going to go ahead and slide it over the stud here on either side to hold it up. So now we can secure the bumper beam to the vehicle here, sandwiched between our hitch. We're going to start with that 14mm socket we were using earlier. I'm going to place our factory nut over that, and then we're going to secure the stud first on either side here. So it does kind of take a steady hand to make sure that you can get the nut to stay on the socket. I kind of have my hand underneath and I'm just using it to guide, but then we'll just loosely thread that on there just to hold everything into position. So now we're going to be securing our other two holes, not using the factory bolts, but the bolts that come in your kit here. We have these M10 hex nuts and these conical tooth washers. Make sure the teeth are facing the bumper beam. And this outside one here, you can actually thread in by hand. And then our one on the bottom as well here, we can easily thread in by hand. But once I have all of our fasteners in place, I'm going to go ahead and snug them up. So our two aftermarket bolts here, we're going to need a 17mm socket, whereas our factory nut, we're going to be using that 14mm we've been using this far. So you will need a torque wrench here for these next steps. If you guys don't have a torque wrench, you can pick one up, a cost-effective option here at eTrailer along with your hitch, or a lot of people actually like to rent these from most local auto parts stores using their rent-a-tool program because it is free of charge. So keep in mind, your carriage bolts on either side on the bottom are a different torque spec than your other bolts, so just make sure that you look at the instructions so you can get the correct value. So the next thing we need to do is trim our bumper fascia. So we've already got everything marked out for you. In the instructions, there's going to be a nice little diagram, but basically we need to locate this fastener here. This is sort of in the center of the vehicle. It is kind of offset to either side. So directly to the left of this, depending on which way you're looking at it, is the area that we need to trim. So we're going to be using this little factory ridge here as a reference point. We're going to measure over 3.5 inches, make our cut line here, and then we're going to use this edge here to measure up 2.5 inches, and then you're just pretty much just going to be taking out that little square there, just like we have it marked out. Now, in order to remove this material, you can use a number of different things. If you have some heavy-duty shears, you can cut through this plastic. Or if you have a Dremel tool, this is probably going to be the best one to use and what we're going to use. So we're going to go ahead, make sure we got our safety glasses on, and then we're just going to go ahead and remove that material. So once we have that little panel removed, I'm gonna go ahead and just remove my tape here. And now we're gonna clean up all those rough edges that our Dremel tool left behind. You can use a file, but what I actually like to do with those rough edges is, once they've dried, they're still kind of hot now, I'm gonna come back with a razor knife and just sort of clean those up, getting all those burrs off there. And now with our fascia trimmed, we can go ahead and reinstall on the vehicle carefully. So now that we have the bumper cover back on, just make sure you reinstall any fasteners that were removed previously. But once that's done, that's going to do it today for our look and installation of the eTrailer trailer hitch receiver here on our 2022 Subaru Outback.